Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blockbuster Show. I'm Adam Sykes, and we are here with the last episode of the Summer of Spoof. And we are looking at Craig Moss's parody of, well, it's supposed to be Breaking Dawn, but we'll get to that. This is Breaking Wind.
God, I knew I should have taken those stupid shrimp tacos from that Guadalajara street vendor last.
So if you don't know who Craig Moss is, he's very much similar to people like Seltzerberg, where most of his movies are just unfunny parody films with such classic titles like The 41-Year-Old Virgin Who Knocked Up Sarah Marshall and Felt Super Bad About It.
We're thinking of calling the movie Do You Believe the Identical is Too Old-Fashioned to Prove God's Not Dead?
That sounds like a spoof title.
Who could possibly make fun of that?
The only movies that he made that weren't parody movies were the Badass movies, and those were based on YouTube viral videos. Which, speaking of, this guy feels like he's trying way too hard to be like a YouTube parodier. Like, he feels like he's trying to be, like, how do I word it? He's, like, channels like Bart Baker and people and Key of Awesome, like, they do, like, skit comedy. It feels like he's trying to do, like, a version of that in movie form. But here's the problem. Those work because they're short YouTube videos. This is an hour-long movie. And so, it doesn't work that way whatsoever. And it doesn't help that the movie's style of humor is easily its biggest weakness. There is a reason this is called Breaking Wind, because the humor is just so reliant on gross out jokes. Not a lot of weed or alcohol jokes like I was expecting, but oh god, fart jokes. They do a lot of gay jokes with Bella's dad's character parody. Which they did the same thing in the Seltzerberg parody Vampire Sucks. So that's, oh my god, that's a cage match I never want to see. Fucking the Vampire Sucks versus this. I would hate to watch that. Lots of dick jokes, lots of vagina jokes, like any kind of gross out humor that they could do. Which that would be one thing if they went with that, but it's even worse because this movie has the maturity of a 14-year-old on Roblox. Actually, you know what? I take that back. That's insulting to 14-year-olds on Roblox. So, okay, this movie's title, you'd think it's a parody of Breaking Dawn, Part 1, right? Well, no. This came out in 2012, so this was before there was, like, a lot of footage. Like, I think at that time there was, like, a trailer for the first part of Breaking Dawn. So, this movie is actually a parody of Eclipse, which, let's face it, that movie, Eclipse in the Twilight series, an already terrible series of movies, Eclipse was a filibuster. That movie was basically just build up to Breaking Dawn. So, yeah, they went with that. Like even Vampire Suck didn't do that. Vampire Suck parodied, like, what, the first two Twilights? So that at least was, like, trying to parody, like stuff that a lot of people were familiar with. Like, unless you're a person that is actually really familiar with Twilight, I really doubt you're going to get a lot of the stuff with Eclipse. I watched Eclipse, like, for 20 minutes when it was on, I think, Sci-Fi Channel. And so I got some of the stuff they were doing. But, oh my god, the stuff that they do in this movie is just so painfully unfunny. Like, for example, they parody the scene in Eclipse where they're in the mountains and they're in the tent and there's, like, that awkward tension between Edward and Jacob and, you know, Bella's, like, in between them. They try to parody that, but the joke is that Edward's trying to have a serious heart-to-heart conversation with Jacob, and Jacob's just having sex with Bella. And he doesn't even notice, like, any of their loud sex noises. That's it. That's the joke. Did you guys think that was funny? Because no, I didn't. A lot of people didn't. This movie sucks. They really don't do much with the actual Bella character. They don't change her name. She's still Bella. Edward is still Edward, and Jacob's still Jacob. Edward is still just as much as, you know, kind of wimpy and scrawny like he was in the original. The joke that they do with Jacob, however, is that instead of being built and muscly, the joke with this is that he's fat. In fact, all the werewolf clan is fat. That's the joke. And you get to see some epic, shirtless fat dudes. So that's really the joke that they kept hammering in. They're always eating, and of course, they're always farting, because you can't spell fart without fat. Probably the funniest scene in this entire movie was, there's a scene where the armies of the werewolves versus vampires, the vampires come out of the water, like in the original, and they come out wearing like floaties on their arms that kids would have. That was actually a funny visual, and it actually did make me laugh. That was the closest thing to an actual joke that this movie had. Okay, we are here to kill Bella. Yeah. What? What? Hey, you will take us seriously, all right? This is a Craig Moss parody of Twilight, all right? You will take us 120% seriously. We're here to kill Bella. They parody TMZ, because TMZ is obnoxious. TMZ is just an absolute blight on the face of humanity, right? So the fact they were parodying that, I was like, oh, okay, you guys can totally make fun of how obnoxious TMZ is, right? They didn't even do, it was so close to doing that correctly, and then they just ruined it. And they just kept hammering it in and hammering it in. I'm like, I get it. TMZ sucks. You guys are really just not making this funny anymore. You guys took what could have been really funny. It started off kind of amusing, and then you guys just kept doing it so many times to the point where it was just as annoying as actual TMZ.
And according to them, they swear they're not an item.
He's so dropping his nuts in her mouth.
As opposed to dropping them on her chest.
Oh, wouldn't that make them chestnuts?
Do you guys have a photograph of James Franco leaving a Denny's?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's right here. Let's see it.
Put it up.
We got it.
See what I mean? Just describing this out loud, this feels like this was made by 14-year-olds on YouTube. That's what this feels like. It's just so dreadfully unfunny, unclever. It's just, imagine that kid in your YouTube comments that that says, I banged your mom. Imagine if that kid made a movie. That's what this is. That's what this is. In terms of special effects, this movie is very similar to Meet the Spartans in that it's very cheap when it comes to its budget. However, this one didn't go to theaters, so there's a bright side to that, is that the only way you have to see this is if you paid for it or if you watched it when someone bootlegged it online. So there's that. Poor Danny Trejo. Danny Trejo's in this movie as the chief of the werewolf clan. And the joke with that is that they go back, they have a flashback to when the werewolves fought this group of people, and they reference Avatar, and they have a bunch of guys dressed up as Johnny Depp characters, and they say, they were all virtually the same, but were played in different ways, so which is kind of clever because Johnny Depp is kind of one note, but it's, why? Why is it in a Twilight parody? Why?
There was a herd of them. All of them different characters, played the exact same way.
They reference some writer guy. I forget what the name of that guy was right now. They reference Angry Birds, and then later they introduce the name of the evil vampire army are called noobs, and they even point out like World of Warcraft noobs. Yes. They reference noobs from World of Warcraft in a 2012 parody of Twilight. The movie's dated. And they reference so many celebrity. They reference Lindsay Lohan, and I guess she was kind of relevant in 2012. They reference Brendan Fraser, and they reference, of all people, Gary Coleman. And it's like, Gary Coleman tragically died in 2010. Now you're 2 years later. Why are you referencing him? It's kind of hard to talk about the plot of this movie because really, they take scenes whole from Eclipse and almost never change dialogue. I mean, even other parody movies that were direct descendants, like Hot Shots, which was supposed to be Top Gun, Hot Shots Part 2, which was supposed to be Rambo. They'll take scenes and they'll lampoon them, they'll spoof them, but they almost never took scenes whole from the original thing. That's plagiarism. That's not right. The movie ends with the werewolf clan and the vampire clan fighting, and then Bella uses a fart to distract the leaders of the vampire clan, and they kill them off. They go into detail about how terrible Bella's fart smells, which they did that before. This movie feels like it was made by some really weird, like, scat fetishists on DeviantArt. It really feels like that at some points because of how many times they use farts as jokes in this movie. Bella and Edward say they're going to get married. Jacob doesn't like that. He gets into a spat with a TMZ, or is he ZMZ? They get into a little bit of a spat, and then he accidentally, stabs himself, and then Jacob dies. Then they parody like any kind of footage they could from the trailer of Breaking Dawn, and like they do again just dumb stuff like the joke is that Bella has a booger on her nose while they're getting married, and then they parody the bed breaking scene, which that was funnier in the original movie because of how absurd it was. Here they just they have wild crazy sex and then bed collapses. Thanks for explaining the joke, movie. And instead of pregnancy pains, it ends with Bella having diarrhea. That's the joke. And then, as if the movie wasn't painful enough, there's an extra 10 minutes where, I kid you not, they actually rip reaction footage from Twihards of them reacting to the Breaking Dawn trailer. They actually used footage from, of all people, Nutty Madnum 3575.
Amazing book.
Oh man, do you guys remember 2008 YouTube? Oh man, that was such a great time. Nutty Madam 3575. You remember Fred? Yeah, this was a great year for YouTube. This such great quality content when people could actually be YouTube partners just by simply using their webcam and Windows Movie Maker. Man, those were the days. This was painfully bad. This was even more of a sit than The Comebacks was. The Comebacks was a really long movie that I really wish would end, and I wish was like 20 minutes shorter. That was my fault though, because I watched the unedited version, so there was like an extra 20 minutes. However, this one was like 10 minutes shorter, and yet it still felt too long. And man, so I guess we should go through each one of the movies that we did for Summer of Spoof and give thoughts looking back. So, Meet the Spartans, that sucked. It was basically just your typical Friedberg Seltzer. Hey, we're going to parody 300, and then the rest is just going to be a huge reference-a-thon to stuff that was popular, a year that we made it or the year it came out, whatever. It was just that, and it wasn't funny. And even though the subway bit in that was funny, that doesn't excuse how terrible that movie was as a whole. The Comebacks was not that great, but I will say that I at least respect the fact that The Comebacks actually wasn't just a lazy, hey, look, this is our main parody, and we're just gonna... Like, there was still some of that. There was still some, like, a lot of just pointless references. But it was more... It actually had more heart, I guess, than Meet the Spartans did. I don't know. It was the most tolerable out of all three of these movies. Still not great. Still not a very good movie. But I'd still rather watch it than either of these. And then lastly, yeah, Breaking Wind's just a terrible film. It's immature, it's crass, it's not clever, it's just lame. It's just so dumb, and I really wouldn't recommend it to anybody. And if we ever do another Summer of Spoof, I highly doubt we're ever going to do another Craig Moss or Jason Friedberger and Seltzer movie, because let's face it, once you review one of their movies, it's basically the same for all of them. They're crass, they're dumb, lots of bad, gross out humor, gay jokes, references, and we can only do that for so long, so I really don't think we're going to do another Friedberg, Seltzer, Craig Moss movie if we ever do another one of these Summer of Spoof specials. But yeah, this concludes the Summer of Spoof. I hope you guys enjoyed, and the next Blockbusters episode's coming out in September, and that's going to be an anniversary special. From when we switched gears from doing movie parodies and skits, then we switched gears over to doing these kind of movie vlog review kind of things. So, yeah. So hopefully we'll have something special for that in September when that comes around. Hope you guys look forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'm Adam Sykes. This is The Blockbuster Show, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.